So I'm sure everyone on planet Earth has watched the Back to the Future series. However, how many people were actually aware that there's a game based on the series? Well, there is. In 2010, Telltale Games released a Back to the Future game that takes place directly after the third movie. This isn't really your average Telltale game, however. There aren't any choice-based aspects to this game. Instead, it's basically just like a linear story in which you occasionally have to solve challenging puzzles. So, in that regard, it's more so related to the Sam and Max series than like The Walking Dead, for example. Anyway, today I decided that it would be a fun idea to play through this game and unlock every achievement while doing so. So, the game opens up with a familiar scene. We basically have to recreate the first time travel scene that happened in the first film. To do this, I had to choose two specific dialogue choices. One being the "you disintegrated Einstein" dialogue choice, and the other being the "you built a time machine out of a DeLorean" dialogue choice. Choosing both of these dialogue options will give me my first achievement in the game. Where is... oh, there it is. Okay, I have trust issues. Deja Marty. Turns out though, the whole first scene of the game was just a dream Marty was having because he misses Doc. We also learned that Marty's father, George, is hosting a garage sale that'll get rid of a lot of Doc's belongings. While searching through the garage, we find Doc's notebook. However, there's just one problem. Biff. Biff claims that he found the notebook first and wants to keep it, so we obviously have to get it back from him. And in order to do that, I have to find my guitar, hook it up to the loudspeakers, and start playing. Biff, being the buffoon that he is, however, took our guitar and tried to play it himself. That didn't go so well for him as he was knocked unconscious and we were able to get the notebook back. After getting the notebook back, we heard a strange noise coming from outside, so we step out to take a look and we find an abandoned DeLorean. Upon stepping outside, I also got the achievement for getting my notebook back.
Doc?
Oh, nice. Doc's legacy.
Inside the DeLorean, we found someone's shoe as well as a recording from Doc, but he doesn't tell us where he is. So I took the shoe, brought it to Einstein, and he led us to this apartment building. The apartment belonged to this annoying old lady, and upon showing her the shoe, she led us inside. While inside the apartment, I learned that this old lady is named Edna Strickland. She'll become a very important character throughout the game. Now inside this apartment, I also had an opportunity to collect a missable achievement. I had to interact with these photos on the wall multiple times, and once I interacted with them enough, I got the achievement.
What's that?
Nothing.
There it is. Fate in a flux.
After exploring this apartment and getting Edna to leave the room, I took a look at her newspapers and found out that Doc was stuck in the year 1931. So I traveled back in time to rescue Doc and was given an achievement for doing so.
Back in time. Here we go again.
Once in 1931, I met up with a younger version of Edna. Right after that, I had the opportunity to get the Hi Bob achievement.
Yeah, there it is.
However, my main goal of the episode was to find out where Doc was, and I did. Turns out, he was in prison and he explained everything to me. However, what I was most concerned about was finding out how the DeLorean reached me back in 1986 for a missable achievement. I had to choose some specific dialogue choices, and once Doc finished telling me, the achievement would pop.
There it is. A plausible explanation.
Exploring a little more led me to Doc's younger self, who I'll refer to as Emmett throughout the game. He was my key to saving Doc from jail. All I needed was Emmett to help me create a rocket drill. However, Emmett was yet to find his spark in science. Instead, he's training to be a lawyer, so of course I have to help him find his path. Step 1 was to record what Emmett was saying and show it to Doc. Doc gave me the answer to Emmett's problem, so I returned to him and gave him the answer. Emmett said he would help me create the drill so long as I do two things for him. I needed to deliver a subpoena to my grandfather Arthur so that he'll testify against someone named Kid Tannen in court. I also had to get some alcohol in order to fuel the drill. Once agreeing to do this for Emmett, I got the achievement titled Hello Young Friend.
Kid Tannen.
So this part of the game was very tricky. I learned that Edna is part of this group called the Stay Sober Society, and she delivers soup to charities in need. I also found out that the soup kitchen across the street hoards alcohol covered up as soup and places it on a separate shelf. When coming in for her donations, the soup kitchen actually gives Edna the real soup, not the alcohol. So what I had to do was find out how to get the soup kitchen to give Edna the alcohol-laced soup instead of the real deal. My first step was to tell Edna that her charity, the Stay Sober Society, was running low on soup. However, she told me that the society had no place to meet up, so I had to lie really quick and say that Emmett would be willing to host the meeting at his house. I then went back into the soup kitchen and mixed up the alcohol with the real soup. Edna would then later come in, grab the soup for herself, and then she would later bring the alcohol disguised as soup to Emmett's house, and that finished the first of Emmett's requests, which also popped an achievement.
And get my patent.
Junior bootlegger badge.
Next, I had to deliver the subpoena. However, I had no clue where Arthur was. So I had to meet up with Kid Tannen, steal his hat, bring it to Einstein, and Einstein brought me to this familiar apartment building where Arthur was staying. Now, I tried getting Arthur down, but he said he wouldn't come down unless Kid Tannen told him to do so, so I solved this by going back to the town, getting a voice recording of Kid Tannen, and playing it back in front of Arthur. He was hesitant, but Arthur did take the subpoena, and this popped another achievement.
Finally, Grandpa got
Well,
served.
we've served the
Jesus.
subpoena, got
Now, the next section of the game had me create the fuel for the rocket drill, and this was quite complicated. I had 4 different levers to pull, and I had to do this all while Emmett was arguing with his father. So I had to pay close attention to the words Emmett stresses so that I know what exact lever I had to pull. That wasn't the hard part, however. The hard part was the achievement I had to go for, and in order to get this achievement, I had to do everything in one run without messing up. So basically, I couldn't pull the wrong lever once, or else it would void the achievement. It took me a few tries, but I did end up doing it and grabbing the achievement.
I better have gotten that
I
achievement.
got the
Yes!
Let's get you out of here.
Fuel Master. Thank God.
As soon as I got the fuel, I ran back to the jail with the rocket drill and tried to free Doc. However, I was too late as Doc was kidnapped by none other than Kid Tannen. I did get an achievement for using the rocket drill though.
At least the rocket part came out of this one piece.
Jailbreak.
Now I actually had to go rescue Doc, so I picked up the rocket and used it to my advantage. Once I caught up to Kid, I ended up saving Doc, and him and I escaped. I got the achievement for doing so, but there's just one problem. Marty starts fading from existence, and that ends episode 1.
Nice. Completed the first episode, I assume. A bicycle built for 2.
Episode 2 opens up with Doc and Marty learning that, because I delivered the subpoena to Arthur, the Tannen gang killed Arthur, which led to Marty never being born in the first place. So I had to run back in time again and save Arthur before he was ever killed by the Tannen gang. However, they knocked me out and Arthur tried running, but didn't get far. I found them in this back alley, hid in a crate, snuck into their hideout, and got an achievement once I got in.
Art lover. Nice.
Now, here my main goal was to save Arthur by taking out all the guards. However, for a missable achievement, I had to do so without messing up. To take out the first guard, I had to grab this bottle of alcohol and pour it in his ink bottle. This will cause him to fall unconscious. For the next guard, I had to activate this switch, and once the guard comes to check on it, I will have the opportunity to do something to him. However, instead of doing that, I want to make sure he activates the switch himself so that this bottle will fall on the floor. I then wanted to pick up the bottle and activate this sign. Interacting with this sign will send this guard upstairs and he'll be unable to come back down. I then wanted to use this switch again to lure the other guard over here and this time smack him across the face with the bottle. After taking care of all the guards, I saved Arthur and got the achievement.
That should have got me the achievement. Yeah, there it is.
Perfect timing.
A minimum of panic. Nice.
Thinking I fixed everything once again, I returned back to 1986, only to find out that the Tannens run the city. I got into a little bit of a quarrel with the Tannens, and during the fight I had to perform some moves in a certain order and defeat the Tannens for an achievement.
Where's the... There it is. Tannen Tamer. Nice.
Once back in 1931, I had a good amount of missable achievement opportunities. The first is with Doc, in which all I had to do was use some specific dialogue choices while talking to him.
Oh, nice. There it is. I can't even...
The next came while trying to enter the Tannen secret hideout. I had to crack the code without cheating.
Door prize. Nice.
And now while inside the secret hideout, I had to interact with these photos on the wall multiple times and the achievement would pop.
There it is. Chucklehead.
Finally, Kid Tannen's mistress, Trixie, is performing some live entertainment, and I had the opportunity to choose which song she sings next. Upon listening to all of her songs, I would grab another achievement.
Oh, finally, Jesus. Turned out.
Okay, so really quick, I almost forgot. The reason I'm back in 1931 is because something that Doc and Marty did while saving Arthur from the Tannen gang stopped Trixie from betraying and testifying against Kid Tannen in court. So that's why I'm back again in 1931, to convince Trixie to testify. Alrighty, now with all that confusing time travel stuff out of the way, I can get back to business. The first thing I did was come across this cop who was supposed to arrest Kid Tannen, but he was very drunk and wanted nothing to do with arresting him. So in order to get him to talk, I had a request that Trixie sings certain songs so that he'd open up to me. However, it came to a point where none of the songs in the hideout worked, so I had to find a new song. Turns out, Edna was writing a song of her own, so I asked for a copy of that, switched out Trixie's lyrics, and had her sing that. That helped motivate the cop, and he was back on track to arrest Kid Tannen. I also got an achievement for convincing him.
Oh, nice. Police blotter. God, that took forever.
After progressing through the story, Kid Tannen will eventually get up and walk through a secret passage. I had to follow him through by betting on some numbers that I examined earlier while trying to save Arthur. Walking through just took me back up to the town, but the important thing is that I got an achievement.
Escape artist.
Alrighty, so the next step was to actually get Trixie to betray Kid Tannen. She, however, had no motivation to do so, so I had to use my power of lying to help her testify. I had to convince her that Kid Tannen killed Arthur because she likes him or something. To do that, I had to get this bartender guy to draw a photo of Arthur so that I can hang it on Kid's kill wall. Once Trixie saw this, she immediately went to the cop and showed him the evidence against Kid Tannen. Once she presented the evidence, I got an achievement.
Mole Mender. Finally.
The cop also busted the hideout and escorted everyone out. So once I left the hideout, I found Edna tied up in this garage at the hands of Kid Tannen. So I had to rescue her and defeat Kid Tannen once again. After a few minutes of running around, Edna got herself out of the garage, and long story short, I had to send this barrel of alcohol into the garage and blow it up. Tannen, however, escaped and went up to the roof and captured Emmett. So I followed him up there, locked him in this flying car thing, and got him arrested. After getting Kid arrested, Trixie reunited with Arthur, Edna and Emmett went out on a date, and Doc and Marty were on their way back to 1986 once again. Happy endings all around for everyone, including me, who got an achievement for ending the episode.
Let's go. Kid restraint.
However, there's always going to be a however with this stuff. Doc was never supposed to go on a date with Edna, and before we could turn back around to prevent that, we returned back to 1986. Or should I say, I returned back to 1986, as Doc was nowhere to be seen, and that ended episode 2. Episode 3 opens up with me crashed into a billboard, and the only person around to help is Jessica, Marty's girlfriend. She ends up helping us by throwing up a tire iron, and I got down from the billboard. Now, I actually had to get into the city to find out what's going on. I did this by using the tire iron on one of the DeLorean's wheels, connecting it to a battery, and flying over the wall. Doing all of this got me into the city and an achievement.
Oh, nice.
Okay, Marty. Nothing
Hope
to be
you're
afraid of.
insured.
It's just-
Once in the city, the first person I ran into was Officer Parker, Jessica's father. He told me something about being out of uniform and that what I'm wearing is against the rules. I then ran into Biff, and he told me that he got into a lot of trouble by breaking the rules and was then taken to see Citizen Brown, who is clearly Doc. So the main goal of this episode is to meet up with this Citizen Brown character by breaking all kinds of rules across town. But first, I had a few missable achievements to get out of the way. The first one had me push this buzzer multiple times until this episode's Edna came out and confronted me.
Guess I'm not getting in that way.
Ruin for everyone. Nice.
The second one had me interact with all these self-guided panels around town.
There it is. Hill Valley Tourist.
And the last one had me take one of Jessica's spray bottles and use it on this wall.
Nice. Marty and the Pinheads.
Now on to breaking all the major rules around town. I first had to get caught with a dog because of course that's against the rules. The dog in question was actually Einstein, and I had to follow him into the back alley in which he'll run up a plank and into this back trash area. Following him back there will always lead him to outsmart me, so what I had to do was spray paint this plank blue and follow his footsteps. Once I made friends with Einstein, he'll run after Edna and Officer Parker will give me my first ticket, and as an added bonus, I got an achievement.
Oh. All good dogs go to Utah.
The next rule I had to break was to get caught with alcohol. Luckily, George informs me that Marty's mother has an alcohol problem. So once I got the alcohol from our mother, I had to get caught with it by Officer Parker, and he gave us another ticket as well as another achievement.
Oh, nice. Intervention.
Finally, I had to get caught hooking up with Jennifer. And in order to do that, I had to defeat Jennifer's new boyfriend in a guitar battle. Once doing that, Edna catches us in the act and tells Parker to give us another ticket and achievement.
Nice. 7 minutes in heaven.
After the third and final ticket, I was finally able to meet up with Citizen Brown. I tried convincing Brown that he's not who he should be, but he didn't believe me without proof. So I went back to George's garage to get proof, only to find him knocked out on the floor. I easily found out that it was Biff, and I noticed that Biff had a watch on that turns him into a mindless zombie. I told him to jump into this trash bin, and I followed right after him. I got an achievement for doing so.
Nice. Into the garbage chute, McFly.
Once down there, I found out that Edna was the mastermind behind everything. Edna ordered Biff to take me hostage, so I had to convince him to let me go by pointing out stuff that he likes. Once out of his grasp, Citizen Brown came down and found out about Edna's plan. It didn't take Citizen Brown long to turn back into the Doc we all know and love. He then decided to work on a new time machine and get us back to 1931. Before following him up though, I had a missable achievement opportunity down here in which all I had to do was interact with a bunch of these items.
There it is. Hidden treasure.
Now, right before I was about to leave, Biff got back up and tried taking me out. However, it didn't work for him as I told Einstein to go after him and then push this switch that caused this table to knock him out. Upon beating Biff, I got another achievement and went back upstairs.
Nice. Final solution.
However, Edna was in Doc's seat and she revealed that she kidnapped him to turn him back into Citizen Brown. This right there ended episode 3. However, I did miss one achievement in this episode, so I had to go back really quick. I had to collect all possible demerit tickets, along with the 3 I got for meeting Citizen Brown. So I did that and got the achievement.
There it is. One bad apple.
Episode 4 opens up with me in a jail cell. I quickly find out that George is watching us on the cameras and is willing to help us escape. My first step in escaping was to ask this security guard here to check on my stuff. After doing that, I went back to George to see if he caught a glimpse of the code. He did, and I opened the locker and got my stuff. I then noticed that Jessica was locked in the room next to me. She seemed brainwashed, so I plugged my guitar in and started playing a song for her. She quickly remembered who she was, took out her guard, and rescued me. Once I escaped, I got an achievement.
Nice. The power of love.
I then took out the guard operating this machinery that connects down to where Doc is being held. I messed with some controls that lured Edna and her guard down to Doc and jumped down there myself and freed Doc from Edna. Freeing Doc got me another achievement. Free Citizen Brown. Once Doc and I arrived outside, Doc went to get the DeLorean and we made it back to 1931 to stop Emmett and Edna from ever getting together in the first place. However, the DeLorean was malfunctioning and we're a few days late, and Emmett and Edna are far past the point of getting together. So the main goal of this episode is to break them up. I tried seeking help from Trixie, but she didn't want to do so because Edna never wronged her in any way, no matter how much Trixie may hate Edna. So naturally, I had to get Trixie fired from her job and make it look like Edna did it. To do this, I had to walk over to this guy who gave me a naughty photo of Trixie. Before doing anything else, however, I had to interact with the photo in my inventory for an achievement.
Nice.
There's a moose. I also had to take some algae cakes from this guy for an achievement later on. But next up, I showed Edna the photo of Trixie and she got fired for it. As soon as she got fired, Trixie had no problem helping me break Emmett and Edna up. I just needed to collect some items for her. The next thing I did was head to Emmett's lab. Now, there are multiple things that I need to do while here. First, Emmett was the last person I needed to give an algae cake to for an achievement.
Some sort of algae cake.
Nice.
It's supposed to be
Let
tricky.
them eat cake.
Oh, I've heard of these.
Next, I needed to interact with Emmett's mind maps for another achievement.
Folly thus far. A little disturbing.
Edna was right.
Then I had to tell Emmett that he couldn't marry Edna for yet another achievement.
Nice.
Let's just drop it.
An uncomfortable truth.
Now with the achievements out of the way, I had to pick up Emmett's photo album and spray bottle. Upon returning to town, I gave Trixie all the items she needed to help me break Emmett and Edna up, and I got an achievement for convincing her to help me.
Oh, nice. The other woman.
The next thing I had to do was age Emmett's spray bottle by putting it into the DeLorean and having Doc take it for multiple test runs. Once I got the aged bottle, I got an achievement.
Oh, nice.
You like this time?
Like a not-so-fine wine.
I then returned to Emmett's lab and gave him his spray bottle back. The next thing I had to do was quite complicated, but long story short, I had to make Emmett look like a bad person. This slideshow here basically shows people who are supposed to be seen as good or bad figures. I had to make Emmett think the opposite of what you'd expect. Like I had to make Emmett see Edna as a bad figure and so on. Once I made him look like a bad person, I got an achievement.
Get all this stuff loaded into the truck. I'll be ready for
Not so beautiful mind.
I also got an achievement for only visiting Emmett's lab twice.
Oh, nice. Timely traveler.
Now, it was finally time for Edna to break up with Emmett. First, I had to destroy his suit. After that, Trixie came in and made Edna jealous. Then we tested Emmett's mind and made him look like a bad person in front of Edna. This was Edna's last straw and she broke up with him. Emmett then took off and I got an achievement for breaking them up.
Breaking up is hard to do.
I eventually found Emmett on the roof of the courthouse and I had to talk him into inventing again. I basically had to get him mad so that he could compare himself to other inventors. Once Emmett realized his dreams to become an inventor, lightning struck and Emmett fell off the roof and I got an achievement for convincing him.
Okay, then in the middle of this, your own personal Frankenstein.
In order to save Emmett, I had to use the spray bottle to decompose my side of the rope and his pants. We got down from the courthouse and that gave me an achievement.
Nice. To the expo.
The episode ended, however, with Doc betraying me and telling Edna all of our secrets. Episode 5 started with Doc trying to steal a part for Emmett's latest invention. However, it doesn't work and I got it back from him. I then enter the expo where Emmett is going to show off his latest invention and I have the opportunity to gain a few missable achievements. The first one requires me to interact with this exhibit 7 times until I start moonwalking.
There it is. Nice. Moonwalker.
After doing that, I met up with Officer Parker and Edna. Edna basically tried to lie and get Parker to arrest me, but Parker obviously didn't believe it and told me to get some proof on her to arrest her. So that's what I set out to do. But first, I entered this house, used this telephone, and got 2 achievements. One for interacting with every exhibit in the expo,
Oh, nice. Full fare.
and another for pretending to be 4 different people on the phone.
Nice. False impressions.
Then I went over to this recording device disguised as a plant and planted it in the telephone booth. I then got back on the phone and tricked Edna into admitting that she burned down a bunch of buildings. This was enough evidence to turn her into Officer Parker and get her arrested. However, she just ran away instead. I then had to find out just where Emmett was because he was nowhere to be seen this whole time. So I asked this dude in a diver suit and he told me that they went into this glass house. I followed him in and here I had another chance to get a missable achievement. I basically had to get through this maze by not going back up the stairs. So I made it through the maze by not going up the stairs a second time, found out that Doc knocked Emmett out and left the maze. Upon leaving the maze, I did get the achievement.
Oh, I'm probably gonna have to. Oh, thank God. No backups.
I then walked back up to the diver suit guy and immediately realized that it was Doc in that outfit this time around. He refused to admit it and show me where Emmett was, but I found out that he was underwater. I started cutting off air supply to Emmett, and that in return caused Doc to start fading from existence. After a little while of me standing there, Doc released Emmett and ran away. I freed Emmett from the water and he started presenting his invention. However, his father ran in and disapproved what he was doing. I, however, convinced them to make up, and Emmett showed off his invention anyway. During his presentation, I saw Edna outside arguing with Doc, and Edna stole the DeLorean. Once outside, an achievement popped for Emmett presenting his invention.
Get back here!
Nice. Emmett finds his muse.
Also outside, Doc disappeared from existence, but there's no need to worry because the real Doc finally returned after all of this time. However, because Edna stole the DeLorean, the whole city changed. This guy came up to us and informed us where Edna was, so we went to her house and found out that she doesn't remember anything. Our main goal now was to restore her memory by following a lot of steps. First things first though, I had to get an achievement by offering her one of those algae cakes from before.
I brought you this.
Oh, nice. Green Goblin.
Now to actually get her memory restored, I had to remind Edna of her boyfriend Emmett Brown. She then came down out of her house and I had to play back the recording of her admitting to burning down the buildings. She then got into the DeLorean and I had to activate some lights to remind her just how far back she went in time. Then I had to try and burn down her bathroom, but she took it from me and did it herself. This fully restored her memory and she pulled a gun on us. However, this guy from earlier stopped us and let us get away. I did get an achievement for restoring her memory.
Nice. Crackpot mended.
We then went back in time to retrieve Edna and bring her back to 1931. However, she got into a standoff with one of the Tannins' relatives, and I had to stop them both. While doing so, I had a missable achievement opportunity in which I only had to go up this ladder twice. After doing all the related steps, I stopped both Tannin and Edna, but Edna, of course, escaped. Once on the road to stop Edna, I got the 2 achievements, one for going up the ladder twice, and then the other for actually stopping them.
You're a smart woman. Strong
Nice.
woman. You just
2
can't
up.
think your way out of it.
What's she
Oh.
doing?
And raising the bar.
Once caught up to Edna, I had to sync her DeLorean with our DeLorean so that we can bring her back in time. Once all 3 dishes were synced, we got back to 1931, Edna got arrested, and we finally returned to the real 1986 in which everything was back to normal. Or so we thought. Turns out, Edna married Kid Tannin while in jail, and they both turned out to be nice people. Then a bunch of different Martys appeared out of nowhere and claimed that the future is in danger. We then set out on one last adventure to finally end the game. The end of the game popped one last achievement.
The future isn't written.
However, I am 2 achievements behind because I missed some steps in the final episode. So I really quickly went back to finish up those 2. The first one I did required me to interact with this cactus like 8 times. So I did that and got the achievement.
Oh, thank God. A prickly pear. This stupid ass achievement.
And the last one required me to use the recording device on everyone at the expo, which I somehow missed. I did do it, however, and popped the last achievement in the game.
Gravity to the world.
Ah, there it is. No longer have to be in this game.
Overall, though, I think I really enjoyed this game. I think it's a solid follow-up to the Back to the Future trilogy, and I really enjoyed the episodic storytelling. Now, it did get extremely tedious at times, because I remember I was stuck for hours trying to figure out what to do next. Like, episode 2 in particular was probably the worst when it came to that. That's why I think I prefer, like, choice-based Telltale games like The Walking Dead or Tales from the Borderlands over the puzzle-type Telltale games like this one or Sam & Max. But that's obviously not to take away from the experience, as I did really enjoy this. But that is going to do it for this playthrough. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you consider liking and subscribing to the channel to see me do more games like this one.